Good afternoon, everyone. We are happy to be here at the Digital Transformation Conference with you all and with my amazing colleagues. My name is Jhansi Reddy. I am a Senior Program Manager in Commercial Software Engineering team at Microsoft. And at CSE, we work with customers all over the world, and we help them address their biggest challenges. Our mission is to build strong relationships with their development teams and all across the world by fostering digital and cloud transformation. And we work really closely with our customer engineering teams, from developers to program managers to human experience designers, and also with their data scientists working on their AI and machine learning problems. That means that we need to have teams all over the world and with a wide range of skill sets and be ready to work with our customers on customer sites. As a team, today we plan to share how we are going through our own digital transformation and helping our customers to do the same. So now next I'll have Sarah Spalding from our team introduce herself. Sarah?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Spalding, and I'm a Principal Engineering Manager. I lead our financial services industry engineering team. Our team is worldwide, so this concept of digital transformation is not new to us, but it has provided some interesting insights. It's been absolutely reaffirmed, I think, by some of the core tenets in cultivating a successful engineering team. Importantly to me, cultivating successful engineers. My focus really is on helping our engineers grow and develop in their careers. So my background is in software engineering. I've worked on products like Internet Explorer and the .NET framework before joining CSE. When I joined CSE about 6 years ago, we started the team with a charter to connect with developers and help them advance their cloud initiatives. We started with a few teams in a few regions across the world because we wanted to be able to work with our customers on site and to see how they work to better understand what they were facing and how we might be able to help. In the past 6 years, we've experimented a lot. We've failed and learned from our mistakes and have expanded our organization to have over 70 teams. So when the pandemic started, we were prepared in some ways because we were already working distributed and we were already remote. We were used to working across time zones and cultures already. We were fortunate to have that experience, and we were able to help some of our customers and our own product teams at Microsoft transition to remote work. But there's still a lot of areas that we're still figuring out. And one of the most important parts of our work is building trust. The way that we created trust in the past really relied pretty heavily on being in person, even though we were very distributed. Obviously, today that has shifted really dramatically in the situation where we're in right now, where we can't be in the same room with our colleagues or our customers. The pandemic has really required us to transform and think differently about how we build trust in each other, in our own team and with our customers. And so we find ourselves taking more time to get to know the individuals that we work with and sharing more of ourselves than we have before. This culture of trust, we think, is absolutely vital in the broader digital transformation. We know that it's at the heart of how technology and people will transform our world.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. It really resonates with me, mainly because when we went to our customer sites and worked, hand in hand with customers, there are little things, the personal things that we would do, right? We share a meal together with them, we kind of chit chat with them. I feel like with this, when the pandemic hit and doing everything virtual, that personal touch is sometimes missing. So, if are there anything that your team is doing to build that trust back and in a virtual environment?
Yeah, so there are lots of things that we used to be able to do that happen sort of incidentally, and you would chit chat on the way to lunch, or you would have an opportunity to really get to know individuals. And if we aren't explicit about it, online or virtual meetings tend to be much more business focused. So just taking a few minutes to ask questions about what you see in the background, or to be explicit about asking questions or sharing information to get to know a little bit more about the whole person. But really, I think that the way I think about it is to think about those things that you sort of got for free or that happened incidentally in a physical world, and how you can get that same context or build that same relationship in the virtual world. We have to be a little more intentional about it.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, we have Federica. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Federica Nacera. I'm a principal software engineering lead, and I lead a team of software developers helping our Microsoft customers with innovative projects on Azure. My team's recently grown, and that obviously has given me a lot of insight into kind of what developing and building a strong team culture is like while being remote. As a little bit of background, I've sort of got a background in both data science and software, and so my particular area of interest is really building systems that bring machine learning models to production.
Thank you, Federica. Tempest, you're up next.
Great. Hi, my name is Tempest van Skyke, and I am a senior data scientist in the health industry in commercial software engineering. And I'm a biomedical engineer with 15 years of experience working in health technology. So I consider myself a full stack innovator, having experience in data science, in medical technology, medical UX and product design, and even working in the wet lab and doing clinical research. And all of that has helped me to improve healthcare with real applications of AI to medicine and biomedical sciences. And in my role and within CAC, I work closely with our healthcare customers, so hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, and so on. And so the type of projects we're seeing over the pandemic has really changed, and as has our way of working with our healthcare customers.
Thank you, Tempest. So a little bit more about myself and our team. With the pandemic, we were prepared in some ways because we already had distributed teams, right? And we have over 70 teams, and we are already remote, working across different time zones. Now we are often helping many of our customers and also our product groups within Microsoft in learning how we make it work. Right, the digital transformation have been, greatly accelerated this year in healthcare, manufacturing, business systems. Advances in digital transformation have occurred in days and months instead of years. To give you an example, we are currently working with the healthcare network on touchless patient experience and check-in, so that they don't have to, transfer things back and forth with the front desk agents, especially during these COVID times. So today we thought we could share with you all what we are seeing as we work very closely with our customers to facilitate digital transformation in these industries. So there are many things that we are still figuring out. We are, continuously learning, and we are upskilling and envisioning our projects with our customers and how we understand our customer challenges. Since we are not, like we mentioned, we're no longer able to feel and see the issues they're facing in person. And also how we connect with them and how we build trust with them, to Sarah's point. And it is very different right now. Our ability to relate to our customers and each other is now highly dependent on our ability to listen more closely and empathize with what they're feeling and dealing with right now. And then the last point is that our intuition and experience from our remote distributed model is tested every single day. We are continually learning, and we wanted to share some of our insights with you. So, Sarah, do you want to expand on the challenges of trust that you were mentioning earlier?
Yeah. So one of the things that we see when we talk about building trust is making sure that people feel comfortable. And lots of times when you're working with a new organization, there's a tendency to feel like, oh, do I know everything that I need to know, or will they think that I'm good at my job, or will my gaps be exposed? Will I somehow not be okay? And so one of the things that we try really hard to do is to focus on upskilling and really share the perspective that everybody is both expert and learner, often in the same hour. You know, we have never been to a customer's we've never worked with a customer and found that they had exactly the same stack as any other customer. There's always something different. There's always a new technology or new version to go and learn. And so, you know, nobody can be completely knowledgeable about all the things. And so being just really transparent about that is a great opportunity to kind of level the playing field and to help people understand that they will both share their expertise and learn something new in any project. And the more sort of transparent and kind of matter of fact we are about that, the more comfortable people can be. And so one of the things that has been really fun about working with Tempest and Federica is that there are a lot of different ways that we can really reinforce that idea of upskilling and kind of sharing what we know. And so I was hoping that Federica could maybe talk about some of the ways that she and her team do that.
Sure, absolutely. So as a manager of a team that's sort of now all distributed engineers, and as Sarah and Jancy said previously, they weren't quite so distributed beforehand, and we were more sort of office-based. We've tried to kind of continue building relationships and sharing knowledge and expertise between people. And what's worked really well has been pair programming sort of more often within our teams and with our customers. And pair programming has proven to be really effective to kind of help continue growing our culture of, you know, needing to be continuous learners, needing to be really open and vulnerable, as Sarah was sort of alluding to, while ensuring that individuals feel supported and, really importantly, not alone, because it's very easy to feel kind of isolated and alone, given that all our interactions are online. And, you know, as a team that pushes forward kind of digital transformations for our customers every day, we have to be really agile and adaptive to changing our plans while we're working with these new technologies. And from a team perspective, this kind of learning always takes quite significant cognitive strength and willpower, and again, even more so while remote. So as a manager of a team, it's really important to kind of impart the energy to the team to keep them excited and motivated during these times. And a couple of things that we've sort of adopted has been to, you know, try and bookend meetings with some friendly conversation, whether it's talking about, you know, a film that they've recently watched on Netflix or Prime, giving our pets a few minutes of airtime. And we've also tried to infuse some fun into our agile meetings by giving a fun fact during stand-up along with our status update. So the other day we all shared our favorite Halloween candy while growing up. And it just kind of, you know, helps us continue to get to know one another. You know, we also spend maybe a couple of minutes after planning playing, you know, online games such as Scribble. So yeah, my most important lesson sort of in keeping a team motivated and driven for this kind of digital transformation would be to have a little fun. Tempest, do you have anything sort of to add from the customer perspective?
Yeah, so because we work so closely with customers, it is interesting to see how digital transformation has happened on the customer side too. So what's been strange this year is that whole projects have come and gone without ever meeting our customers face to face. which is quite strange to think of. And it's quite difficult to build these relationships and continue these relationships when we're completely remote. So one of the things we found quite useful is we have now a document with a table where we have everyone on the projects, their role and responsibility, and just a photo of each person and a kind of a fun fact about each person. Because that helps to humanize the people that you're working with, especially because people can't always have their cameras on, or don't always want to have their cameras on. But it is nice to see who you're talking to and just have some sense of this team, even though you can't meet face to face. We also used to have these multi-day technical deep dives where we would work on site for maybe 3 or 4 days to really flesh out the problem that our customer is trying to solve, and we would be there in their office with a whiteboard, and we just can't do that online. We just can't expect people to be connected to their laptop for 8 hours a day. So we've had to change that format up quite a lot. We have found that what we're doing now is 2 hours per day for a couple of days in a row, with a break in between the 2 hours. And that has had some surprising benefits, like it gives us a chance to digest everything we've learned from our customers and come to the following day's meeting with a fresh perspective, which is good. And we've also learned that visibility of your work is a challenge during the pandemic. So we're trying to be more intentional about demoing our work and demoing the work of our customers to their stakeholders, because before we would be, on site in the office, at our customer's office, and everyone could see that we were working and collaborating. Now, no one can see that, and it could actually go by without being noticed. So you really have to be intentional about showing all the work you're doing, and we found that extra time for demos really helps in that regard.
Thank you, Tempest. So I have a question for Sarah. Sarah, you talked about upskilling and having people with wide range and depth of technologies. How is that influenced by what you're seeing with the customer?
Yeah, we really we see a huge range of experience with customers. Some customers are just starting to build an engineering organization, and so as an organization, they don't really have a culture of engineering, and so they might be hiring their first few software developers. And while they may be really experienced, the company as a whole isn't. Other customers that we work with have been building software for longer than we have, and so it really we see a huge range of experience, but even more importantly, we see a huge breadth. Like, there are so many different technologies that our customers use. Our technology, open source technology from other vendors. And I think one of the really fun parts of being an engineer is that constant exploration and a constant opportunity to learn different ways of solving problems and creating more opportunities for our end customers and consumers.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sarah. And one thing that helps me when I go to the customer conversations is that telling the customer, you are the domain expert, and we are also learning from you at the same time you're learning from us. So again, going back to trust, establishing that trust was so important. So Tempest, one of the challenges that we've also been dealing with is seeing how our customers work, whether it's in a healthcare facility or lab or a manufacturing facility. What are some of the things that you see that are vital in understanding our customer needs?
Yeah, so with in-person customer interactions, we used to be able to literally see how our customers work. And there are all kinds of environmental and social clues when you go and visit a customer. So, like, how formal is their team? What are they proud of? What is their work culture like? Where do different people sit, and are there silos within a business unit? And we might have even visited facilities like plants to literally see how something is made or how people work. But now it is harder to build that empathy, which you need to understand a customer's problem through entirely virtual interactions. So we really have to ask a lot of questions, and we have to have extra patience for all the questions that are constantly being asked. So I find it is helpful to play back your understanding of the problem. So even if lots of people seem to be repeating the same thing, that's fine, as long as we're all stating our assumptions and our shared understanding, and getting that out there for that shared understanding, and just being really intentional about having some patience. And I think that Sarah or Federica, you had a point about being comfortable with awkwardness, right? So there's awkward silences.
Yeah, I feel like lately my motto has been to embrace the awkward. You know, like I was saying before, a lot of the things that you get sort of for free in a physical world, like you were saying, you can see what their offices look like, you can see what their work environment looks like. You can pick up a lot of knowledge and background and insight just by being in their space, and that doesn't come for free anymore. And so we have to expressly ask it. And it can be a little awkward to ask those questions more often, or to ask questions that you wouldn't normally ask. But by doing that, you build trust. You show that you're interested and that you're curious and you're invested in their success.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah and Tempest. And that actually segues into our next question for Federica. Have you noticed any other areas where building trust and empathy has been more challenging as a leader?
Yeah, so this ties in nicely to what Sarah was saying, because it's not just kind of with customers that it's obviously harder, but it's also harder kind of to make sure your team is well and doing okay. And I've had to onboard a few team members without having met them in person recently. And doing that remote can actually work fairly well, but you just have to invest more time to build those relationships and be much more proactive in building them. So one thing that I've done has been sort of reaching out to folks daily, ensuring that new team members are connecting with multiple new people in the wider org each week, making sure that they have lots of people to reach out to and start building connections with. And as Tempest also mentioned, with customer relationships, the key is to really be patient and kind of have intentionality around it.
Thank you everyone for sharing that. I think now we might be able to take some audience questions. Chris said he's going to be coming on back. There it is, that awkward silence again. Yeah.
Can you all hear me okay?
Hey, Chris.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that discussion. Real nice perspectives, and just some great points raised, and a few that I just want to dive into before we've got a few questions that have come in from the audience. But I want to go back to the start, and there was quite a bit of discussion around those water cooler moments where in an office we discuss things, we have passing moments, and it's often kind of a big ignition point for innovation. So with that, you kind of touched upon it, and we've heard quite a bit about it on previous presentations here. How do we kind of go about instilling those water cooler moments remotely, and do you have any kind of best methods of coming together in a virtual sense and ensuring that these moments still continue to happen?
So one thing that sort of my team does kind of additionally, not just my team, but actually we have 3 teams across the New York City area. We have a kind of standing 15-minute sync that is supposed to be kind of a social water cooler chat each day. And each member can join whichever ones don't sort of clash with other meetings, but they'll always know that someone else will be kind of joining it at that time. And sort of everyone goes there with the intentionality of either playing a game for a few minutes, sharing something that's on their mind, but really to not talk about work. So that's one thing that we've been doing.
No, that's really good. And anyone else got anything on that one?
Yeah, one thing that one of the teams that I work with is doing, Chris, is this virtual lunch hour. So where we would bring lunch and talk about food and what we made for lunch. And sometimes we take pictures of what we're eating and share with the team. So it's like a virtual kind of a lunch hour. So that's one of the things that we are trying out. Nice.
And anyone else?
I think that, you know, one thing that I do is kind of getting back to the embrace the awkward is I'll just reach out and I'll say, hey, do you want to have coffee? I don't have any agenda. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And, you know, under normal circumstances, I could walk by or we could exchange a few words on the way to, you know, to the way to the lunchroom or the way to get a cup of coffee or what have you. And so it takes a little bit longer because it's not just a few minutes on the way to doing something else. But I think that, you know, those intentional reaching out are really important.
Nice. And then a good question came in, and again, something we've heard a lot of, particularly on this series, on our UK and Europe events as well, and that's about kind of onboarding. A question came in on, do you have any tips for onboarding new staff whilst working remotely? I think, Federica, you mentioned that you'd grown your team recently, and was that during the pandemic? And if so, how do you go about instilling that kind of Microsoft culture of trust remotely?
It was during the pandemic. It's certainly trickier than it would be kind of in person. Yeah. But really, my top tip is to be really proactive. And you know, I've had to be really careful to kind of make sure I have enough time to check in with people. And to be really kind of proactive with, you know, all the various kind of setup steps that they need. And one thing that we also do is to make sure that everyone has an onboarding buddy, so that if I'm stuck in meetings for whatever reason, then they have that first core person that can help them out with any questions. I know Sarah's also kind of been onboarding some new folks, so I don't know if you've got anything to add, Sarah.
Yeah, one thing that I think is really helpful is when you are fortunate enough to have more than one person starting at the same time, it's really important to connect them to each other, both because they're sort of in the same boat and having somebody to learn with is super helpful, and also because they will actually be able to teach each other a lot, and that connection can be really, really helpful. And to build on what Federica just said, I think it's important to remember that people need to hear things multiple times in order to really know it. And so even if you feel like you've told your new hire 4 different times how your team does something, tell them the 5th time, because it actually takes 6 or 7 times for them to really understand.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And anyone else on that one?
I've just got something else to just add now. Sarah's kind of given me an idea, but because we're always also sort of onboarding customers onto our projects, because you know we really rotate, you know, pretty much every 3 or 4 months we're onto a new project. We're very, very proactive about having sort of laid out sort of agile process documents and working agreement documents, and that's been a huge advantage. Sort of just to flipping to this remote world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Janse, did you have something there?
Yeah. One small thing that I want to add is that more than ever, I think it's very, very important for the newly onboarded people to meet other people in the team. You know, earlier you would take them around the office and introduce them to others, and now that part is missing. So making sure that, you know, you tell this, you know, new employee, go set up time with, you know, these folks and have like a, you know, virtual coffee or one-on-one with them is more important than ever.
Sure. And then another great question that came in was, how have you looked to promote kind of mindfulness and well-being within your remote teams? And I think, Tempest, you mentioned about approaching a new strategy to how you manage your day and structure it. It's kind of, we see a lot in the media at the moment about employees being more switched on than ever, and having a real difficulty distinguishing between home life and work life. Are there kind of any more tips for stopping these blurred lines and ensuring we still get this good work-life balance kind?
Yeah, so actually Federica mentioned having a working agreement, and we're very explicit in that. And working agreement and agile process used to be kind of just existing in our heads, and each team had a way of working that was implicit. But now we're making that explicit, and we're writing down, these are our working hours.
Mm-hmm.
We're a distributed team with people on different time zones. These are our working hours that are friendly to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We're not expected to answer work emails after these times. And we're just really explicit about those things. We're explicit about we're in the middle of a pandemic. We need to be a bit more patient with our colleagues and understand the childcare and pet care time that's needed. And I'm not sure if you mentioned, but no meetings Friday has become very, very popular. So I love it. It's a really good focus day. So just being very explicit and acknowledging that it is a difficult time for our colleagues and our customers too.
Sure.
I think, go ahead.
I was just going to add there about particularly with yourselves, Microsoft, and you've mentioned about working across the globe. Even more so might be difficult with different time zones and trying to factor that in. So I imagine that difficult. But sorry, go on, Sarah.
Oh, sure. So I'm getting back to the point about being more mindful. I think that it's an opportunity to be kind of transparent and kind of share a little bit more of your own personal story. Like, I try really hard. I'm not very good at it, but I try really hard to practice yoga every morning. And most of my team knows, because if I fall over in the middle of my practice, I share that. And so I think this is a place where kind of sharing vulnerability can be really good. I think that kind of both sharing what you do and also, kind of sharing the challenges, and just say, like, last week I had a day where I just couldn't focus, and I was saying to one of my colleagues, like, I just felt like I was in a fog all day yesterday. And you could just kind of see the relief, because they're like, oh my gosh, I have felt that way too. And I think that there's a lot of people sort of comparing their insides to everybody else's outside. Like, everybody else looks like they have everything so pulled together. Sometimes sharing, your own sort of sausage making, if you will, is can be really helpful to other people and help them understand that we're all kind of going through a very difficult time, and nobody has it sort of licked.
No, that's a really good point, because often now you see, particularly within the age of like social media, people just tend to share kind of the positive elements of their life and their lifestyle, and often neglect the harder and more difficult days. So it's good to bring more of that human element back, which you kind of do get more so in the office. So a really good point there.
Yeah, one more thing I want to add is that, Chris, the next week we have this whole org-wide event called 1 Week, and it was really good to see even the management, being mindful of this mindfulness and offering like yoga classes and dance classes and meditation seminars. So it's good to see that management also sees that as a need, and for the employees to take care of their, physical and also mental well-being.
Nice.
And sorry, just going off that, Jancy, like I think it really does start with kind of management. So obviously as a team lead, I try my best to at least show that kind of what's going on behind the curtain, as Sarah was alluding to as well. And like last week, I posted kind of an announcement saying, like, I have not got the flu vaccine yet, the flu jab yet. I haven't, had been to the dentist since the pandemic started. So I'm making a commitment to everyone that I will do those things to kind of look after myself, and sort of asked everyone to kind of do the same, and to make sure that, they're looking after themselves first and foremost, especially if, depending on what happens with the second wave.
Sure. No, some really good points there. And one kind of final question, regarding going back to kind of that culture and building that culture of trust within Microsoft. Does the culture differ from kind of region to region, or would you say there is a universal culture within Microsoft? Obviously, you've mentioned a few times that you're all at different kind of global touch points, and how does that work, and how do you kind of bring it all together?
You know, I think that you're absolutely right. We are a global organization and we see lots and lots of different cultures. And, you know, our team just had a great workshop with Aaron Meyer, who wrote the culture map. And it was a great way of thinking about all of the different factors and the way that different cultures show up in our community. I think the thing that really kind of ties this all together or enables us to work together so effectively is that there's this foundation of Microsoft's core values around respect and accountability and integrity, and that those things really ground all of us in some pretty basic principles and kind of social contract that we have with each other, that those cultures kind of rest on top of. And if we can be respectful of those cultures and sort of understand the differences, then we can really get to a nice place where we can do a lot of really good work together that really builds on those differences instead of being thwarted by those differences.
Nice, that's a good answer. Thank you. And then anyone else got Tempest?
Yeah, when I joined Microsoft, I went straight into commercial software engineering. So I've not really noticed very many regional differences because we are a distributed team. So there's usually on a project, there's people from kind of at least 3 different continents, you see just this kind of more global culture in our team, which I find quite lovely.
So, Chris, one thing that I want to add is that, for example, take the retrospectives, right? What we've seen and with working with global team is that some people are really vocal about what is working well and what can be improved, and some people don't want to share it. I might offend this somebody else if I share this. So maybe setting the baseline in the beginning of the retrospective itself, this is a safe space, and also this could be anonymous feedbacks. Feel free to share your experience or areas of improvement. I found that is really helpful when you set that expectation that it is a safe space and it is okay to share.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. That's all we've got time for. It's been a real pleasure having all of you involved. I think we've gone through some great questions there, and previous to kind of the Q&A from the audience and myself as well, a great discussion on kind of understanding the Microsoft way a bit more. And it's real nice to see that that you're able to create this culture of trust and that it works really well and it's widespread. So a massive thank you to all 4 of you for joining. Really appreciate it.